Hi, my name is Michelle, and back in March, I was accepted to the Rhode Island School of Design, otherwise known as RISD, and it's rather well known for its fine art and design programs. Although unfortunately I will not be going, I still wanted to share my portfolio and all the things I learned, especially for any aspiring artists out there. Please keep in mind that I am not an admissions officer, and what I have to say is based on my observations only. Also, not everything I did will work for you. Learn from my shortcomings and take only what you like. Understand what makes you different and embrace it. The art portion of your application consists of two parts. The first is your portfolio, and this is composed of 12 to 20 pieces of art that express your full range of ideas, interests, and experiences. The second is the assignment, and these are pieces you make based on a prompt RISD gives you. Lastly, I'm just going to touch base on why I decided not to go in the end. Moving on to my first piece, Sweet Dreams pretty much sums up how I felt during the application process. It's rather simple, but my main goal was to capture emotion. This past year, I've been trying to make sure that everything I draw has a story to it. I think it's taking a step further than just focusing on aesthetics, and as far as I know, RISD cares about how well you draw, but also how well you're able to convey a message. So, if you ask any art school for advice, they're going to tell you to avoid copying from a photo. That's why this piece was copied from several photos. But in all seriousness, I do agree with them. When you are directly copying from someone else's work, you are using their perspective to interpret the world, so what you create really isn't yours. However, I think using photographic references is still okay, as long as you do one of the following. Either you transform the photograph, or you take your own. Here's what I did. I knew that I wanted to make something personal and relevant to my own culture, so I went to a local night market event for inspiration and took lots of photographs. Then I combined the photos I did like and tried to exaggerate the features on the people and transform them. I do feel like what I have drawn is somewhat stereotypical of Asian culture, but as someone distant from my own heritage, this is what I saw and this is what I chose to express. I hope that when you look at this, you can feel the heat, the sweat, and the smoke as I did that night. Physically being there allowed me to use more senses than sight, and I think my piece benefited greatly from that. RISD did give me feedback about this piece in particular. They told me that the white space in the background was problematic, and I agree. It does dampen the excitement and the emotion in the center, and it's hard to completely get lost in the color. I didn't change anything, however, because I thought adding on would ruin the composition. Moving on, I was really proud of this piece when I first finished, but looking back, I think it looks really crusty. The message of this piece is much less personal than the previous. I just wanted to note the cyclical nature of violence and more generally of our lives. The ravens, associated with death, form an egg shape, a symbol for life. But this was more a show of technical ability than anything else. Like with the previous piece, RISD also critiqued my use of white space here. Now, I don't think white space is necessarily bad as long as you use it in a way that adds to the composition. The white space in mine is just there. It doesn't do anything. If I had more time, I would also continue to work on the transition between finer details and smoke, and also the more detailed parts so that it wouldn't look as crusty. For this piece, I wanted to use a completely different style from what I'm used to, so I looked to art history, specifically to Edvard Munch and Van Gogh for inspiration. This was very much experimental, and it was based on an old photograph of my mother, which I then transformed. I did this piece quite a while ago, and its only purpose, if I'm being completely honest, is to show off my technical ability. Yes, I want to show that I am creative, but also I want to show that I have the skill to support my creativity. Even though it's a simple plaster cast, I made sure the statue was posed in a way so that it still captured a story. Generally, it's a good idea to have some life drawings in your portfolio. First of all, it shows your understanding of anatomy and also your willingness to learn. I should also mention this, RISD generally expects more detailed works, so including short gesture drawings isn't really recommended. I certainly haven't seen anyone include them in their portfolio. The heist was rushed in 2 weeks when I realized that I had no still lives or landscapes. Because these kinds of paintings are so common in portfolios, I asked myself, how am I going to make myself stand out with my still life? So naturally, I focused on the story behind the items I used. I have no idea how unique this painting actually is. When you submit your pieces to SlideRoom, they will also give you a bit of space to write about your work, and to spice things up, this was part of the description I wrote for this piece. Standing innocently over the broken porcelain is Mr. Piggy, benign bystander or fraudulent swine. My next piece has actually been with us the entire time. If Lost, Please Return Home is a school assignment, nearly half my works are, and what I really like about school assignments is that they come with a lot of restrictions. I definitely feel like I make a lot more creative decisions when there are rules to follow. Battery Bar seemed way too similar to my first piece, but on portfolio day when I got my work reviewed, representatives from multiple schools said that it was fine and that I should include it. They specifically liked the anonymity of the figure. The last piece I included was Departure, and basically I just wanted to show my range in terms of media, style, and concepts. In terms of order, I recommend a combination of 2 ways to structure your portfolio, from best to worst and also by category or story. For me, it just made sense to have all my life drawings in one section, 3D work in another, etc. And within those loose categories, I put my best work at the front. Always, always, always start your portfolio strong. RISD told me that Sweet Dreams was one of my strongest, and it was especially fitting because story-wise, it portrays the beginning. That being said, also end your portfolio strong. I'm not sure if this was comparatively very strong to the rest, but its name was Departure, and I could not resist. Let's talk about the assignment. For 2018 to 2019, RISD released 3 prompts: Forge, Error, and Verify. These change every year, so if you're applying this year, you'll find out what the new prompts are sometime near the end of summer or beginning of fall. What you need to do is choose one of the prompts and make 2 creative responses. I chose Error, and as it turns out, most people did. Please note that here, your conceptual ideas matter more than how pretty the final product looks. My first response, Evolution, explores the idea that mistakes are essential to progress. The hands of the clock depict a bird flying into the distance, and although the clock does not tell time, the flying bird is certainly a step forwards from the motionless, flightless birds at the bottom. Including commercial graphic design work like posters in your portfolio isn't recommended. No matter which major you plan to pursue at RISD in your later years, they just want to see your art. But the thing is, I've been doing graphic design for clubs at school for so long, I really wanted to show RISD those abilities. I didn't think my portfolio would be a complete reflection of me otherwise. That's how the idea for this piece came to be. I wanted to design a set of snack boxes and arrange them in a way so that they would appear to be glitching. Overall, the piece aims to provide a critique on consumers' culture. I wanted to distort the perfect copy-paste quality of mass-produced products to suggest the destructive effects of consumerism. I hope that makes sense. Before I end off the art section, I have one last piece of advice. Attend National Portfolio Day if you can. The reps there will be able to, at the very most, reassure you, or at the very least, point you in the right direction. RISD wasn't actually able to come to my region, so what I did instead was submit my work to ACAD. We were allowed to submit 5 pieces for review to almost any North American art school. Let me say this, RISD gives really good feedback. They put words to all the things I couldn't quite pinpoint. In the end, I chose not to go, and to be honest, it was a pretty straightforward decision. I have always wanted to go into animation, and miraculously, I was accepted into my top choice animation program at CalArts. Also, tuition is high, and RISD doesn't offer entry scholarships to international students. Although I'm still extremely privileged to be able to afford this kind of education, the money just wasn't worth it. This being said, there are still so many good things about RISD. Its shared campus with Brown, the Nature Lab, exchange programs, the fact that you can spend your first year exploring before you settle on a major. At the end of the day, RISD is just a school. It can sure help you go places, but it isn't the only way to success. And getting in shouldn't mean everything. It's been more than a year since I started building my portfolio, and all I can say is that this process is hellish, but also incredibly rewarding, regardless of results. I've improved so much by forcing myself to carve out time in my daily life to draw, and by spending every moment awake during the winter break drawing at the speed of light because I spent a bit too much time being a potato over the summer has taught me that I'll do anything for art because I love it. If you have any questions, please do ask me in the comments below. I love seeing them, and best of luck.